So here's the thing about impossible situations. They're only impossible until some lunatic human proves otherwise. The Galactic Council's emergency chambers erupted into chaos that would make a supernova look like a gentle sneeze. Representatives from 47 species were practically climbing over their hover seats, their various appendages flailing in what could only be described as organized panic. The reason? A distress beacon. One singular, annoying little ping coming from the last place anyone expected to hear from ever again, Terminus 7. Let me paint you a picture of Terminus 7. Imagine if hell had a bad day, then that bad day got divorced, lost its job, and decided to become a planet. That's Terminus 7 on a good rotation. The Galactic Council had classified it as Code Black Omega, which in bureaucratic speak means, don't even think about it, you absolute moron. The survival rate on Terminus 7 was documented at exactly 0%. Not 0 point something. Just 0. Flat. Done. Goodbye. 53 expeditions had attempted landings over the past 2 centuries. 53 expeditions became cautionary tales and memorial plaques, and now, someone's beacon was cheerfully beeping away from its acid-soaked surface. That someone was Cadet Marcus Chen, Human Exchange Program, and boy oh boy, did the Council have thoughts. Let's rewind 3 weeks, shall we? Because Marcus's arrival on Terminus 7 was about as graceful as a drunk giraffe on roller skates, his training vessel, the Stellar Compass, had experienced what the flight manual politely called a catastrophic navigation malfunction, and what Marcus called, well, that's just fantastic. One moment he was cruising through Sector 42, humming old Earth rock songs and definitely not paying attention to his instrument panels. The next moment, alarms were screaming, lights were flashing, and his ship was doing its best meteor impression straight toward the galaxy's most notorious death trap. Marcus had approximately 45 seconds to realize where he was heading. His exact words, recorded by the ship's black box, were, "Oh, come on. Seriously? Terminus 7? That's not even on my route. This is like GPS taking you through a volcano because it saves 3 minutes." The landing was less of a landing and more of a violent disagreement between his ship and the planet's surface. The planet won. It always does. When Marcus crawled out of the wreckage, he took stock of his new temporary home. Acid rain that could dissolve titanium alloy? Check. Carnivorous plants the size of earth oak trees with vine tentacles that moved faster than his eye could track? Double check. Gravity that fluctuated randomly between crushing and floating, sometimes within the same square meter? Oh, absolutely check. His assessment, delivered to absolutely no one while standing in the purple haze of Terminus 7's toxic atmosphere. Well, I've had worse Mondays. He was not joking. Humans, apparently, have a very skewed definition of bad days. That first night, Marcus built a shelter using torn hull panels and sheer audacity. Day 2 on Terminus 7 found Marcus humming while constructing what he generously called base camp and what any sane species would call a metal coffin waiting to happen. He'd wedged hull fragments between 2 rock formations that looked stable-ish, created a roof from the ship's solar panels, and even fashioned a door from the airlock hatch. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. Would it keep out the acid rain and most of the murder fauna? Probably. Good enough. Just like that camping trip in the Rockies, Marcus muttered, tightening a bolt with a piece of broken antenna. Except Dad isn't here to complain about my not tying skills, and the bears here have 6 legs and breath that could melt steel. Speaking of the local wildlife, let me introduce you to Marcus's new neighbors. The Raxthorns were 6-legged predators that hunted in packs, had exoskeletons harder than military-grade armor, and could spit a neurotoxin that paralyzed victims in seconds. Their hunting strategy was basically, overwhelm and dissolve. Terrifying, right? Marcus's solution? He built a perimeter of electrified wire using the ship's backup battery. When the first pack came sniffing around on day 3, they got a shock that sent them screeching into the violet jungle. Marcus actually laughed. Yeah, that's what you get. This is my crash site, thank you very much. Then there were the Skyrippers, flying razor beasts that looked like someone crossed a pterodactyl with a blender and gave it anger management issues. They dive-bombed anything that moved, and their wing edges could slice through bone like butter. Marcus's ridiculous solution? He hung reflective strips from his shelter made from emergency blankets. The Skyrippers, apparently, hated their own reflections more than they wanted lunch. They'd screech, veer off, and crash into each other like confused, homicidal pigeons. "Not so tough now, are you?" Marcus would shout at them while eating his protein rations. By day 5, any other species would be dying from toxic exposure, starvation, or sheer terror. The Galactic Survival Manual specifically stated that unprotected exposure to Terminus 7's atmosphere caused cellular breakdown within 72 hours. Marcus was meal prepping that he'd identified 3 plant species that were probably not immediately fatal, and had started a makeshift garden plot using soil he'd tested with his ship's remaining science equipment. His internal monologue while planting seeds from his emergency supplies went something like, "Okay, so the pH is catastrophically acidic, the mineral content could poison a small moon, and something in this dirt is definitely moving. But you know what? My grandmother grew tomatoes in New Jersey. If she could do that, I can do this." The man was planning for next season. On a planet where next season shouldn't exist for him. 12 days after Marcus's crash, the rescue team assembled with all the enthusiasm of people volunteering for a funeral detail. Because that's essentially what this was. Commander Zalthor, a Krillian whose species was known for their cautious nature and exceptional survival instincts, stood before his hand-picked team wearing a hazard suit that could survive a nuclear blast. Each team member was similarly equipped: Class 9 environmental armor, redundant oxygen systems, acid-resistant shielding, and enough medical supplies to stock a small hospital. You know, just in case they found something to treat, which they absolutely would not. "Listen up," Zalthor's voice crackled through the suit communications, his 4 eyes blinking in that slow, methodical way Krillians did when delivering bad news. "We're going to Terminus 7. We are not, I repeat, not expecting to find Cadet Chen alive. We're looking for his beacon, his black box, and if we're incredibly lucky, enough remains for a proper burial ceremony." A Valorian engineer named Crix made a chittering sound that translated roughly to nervous laughter. "Commander, what are the actual survival odds here?" Zalthor didn't hesitate. 0.001%. And that's being generous. I'm factoring in the possibility of divine intervention or a glitch in the laws of physics. The team exchanged looks, or what passed for looks among species with various numbers of eyes and sensory organs. "So who's writing the death report?" asked Mira, a Sultani navigator whose people were basically immortal and still considered Terminus 7 unsurvivable. "Already written," Zalthor replied, holding up a data pad. "I just need to fill in which specific horror killed him. I've got a betting pool going. I'm thinking Raxthorn Pack, day 2. They're quick. Dark? Yes. But when you're heading to retrieve a corpse from Hell's vacation home, gallows humor is pretty much standard protocol. What none of them knew was that their neatly prepared death report was about to become the galaxy's most embarrassing paperwork error. By week 2, Marcus wasn't just surviving on Terminus 7. Oh no. The absolute maniac was thriving. He'd constructed a rainwater filtration system that would make engineers weep with envy. Using the ship's coolant tubes, some crystalline rocks he'd found, that were definitely radioactive but in a probably fine way, and a collection basin made from the cargo hold door, Marcus had created a contraption that turned the planet's acid rain into drinkable water. Not just survivable water. Actually pleasant water. "You know what?" Marcus said to himself while taking a sip, "This tastes better than the recycled stuff on the station. Little mineral but kind of refreshing. I should bottle this." He was thinking about starting a business. On the Death Planet. Let that sink in. Then there was Fluffy. Fluffy was a Raxthorn juvenile, about the size of a large earth dog, with 6 legs, crystalline spikes along its spine, and mandibles that could crush titanium. Marcus had found it injured after a territorial dispute, and because humans apparently have a pathological need to befriend things that want to kill them, he'd patched it up using medical supplies and some truly questionable decisions. Now Fluffy followed him around like a puppy. A puppy that occasionally brought him gifts in the form of dead skyrippers and made a purring sound that registered on seismic sensors. Who's a good apex predator? You are. Yes, you are, Marcus would say while scratching behind Fluffy's auditory sensors. The creature would lean into his hand, its neurotoxin glands safely retracted because apparently even murder beasts couldn't resist a good scratch. The garden, though. The garden was where things got truly weird. Those seeds Marcus had planted? They'd grown. Fast. Like, horror movie fast. Turns out Terminus 7's hostile soil combined with earth seeds created vegetables that could only be described as aggressively nutritious. His tomatoes were the size of watermelons. His lettuce had developed a protein content that rivaled meat. He'd accidentally created superfood. Marcus observed, biting into a carrot that crunched with disturbing intensity. These are actually amazing. Little spicy, but good spicy. And the acid rain? Marcus had discovered it was fantastic for cleaning. He'd leave his tools out during rainfall, and they'd come back spotless, perfectly sanitized by the same precipitation that dissolved ship hulls. He'd set up a little washing station for laundry on Terminus 7. The most terrifying part? Marcus had absolutely zero awareness of how insane all of this was. In his mind, he was just camping and making do with available resources. This was a weekend trip to him, slightly inconvenient but nothing worth complaining about. He'd even started a journal with entries like, Day 14, beautiful purple sunrise, Fluffy learned to fetch, tomatoes are coming in nicely, only 3 Skyripper attacks today, very peaceful. Very peaceful. The galaxy was not prepared for this level of human nonsense. The rescue team's landing was a masterclass in paranoid caution. Triple-checked seals, redundant shield systems, and enough decontamination protocols to sterilize a small moon. They touched down on Terminus 7 like they were landing on an active bomb, which, frankly, wasn't far from the truth. Atmosphere is hostile, radiation levels are obscene, and something just melted our outer hull camera, reported Crix, his voice shaking slightly. Remind me why we're doing this again? Protocol, Zalthor muttered, though even he looked like he wanted to be literally anywhere else. Stay tight, watch your seals, and let's find what's left of the poor bastard. They trudged through the violet jungle, their suit sensors screaming warnings about everything. The air, the plants, the soil, even the local bacteria were apparently designed by a sadistic committee dedicated to making life impossible. Then they saw it. The camp. Zalthor stopped so abruptly that Mira walked into his back. What in the name of the 7 stars? It wasn't wreckage. It was a homestead. Marcus had turned his crash site into something resembling a functional base, complete with organized sections, a garden that was somehow flourishing, and were those decorative rocks arranged in a border pattern? Is that a welcome mat? Crix whispered, his translator barely processing his disbelief. Before anyone could answer, Marcus emerged from his shelter, wiping his hands on a cloth, looking for all the world like a suburban dad who just finished mowing the lawn. Oh, hey! You guys made it! Marcus waved enthusiastically, wearing nothing but his flight suit with the sleeves rolled up. No helmet, no breather, no protection whatsoever. Man, am I glad to see you. Want some tea? I made it from local plants. Tastes kind of like mint, kind of like battery acid, but in a good way. The entire rescue team froze. Several of them checked their environmental readings, convinced their sensors were malfunctioning. Cadet Chen, Zalthor's voice cracked slightly, you're not wearing protection. The atmosphere alone should have killed you in 72 hours. Marcus looked down at himself, confused. Oh, yeah. The suit's ventilation broke on day 4, so I just stopped using it. Little humid out here, but honestly, it's not that bad. Reminds me of Florida in summer. He compared a Deathworld to Florida. The man compared Terminus 7 to Florida. Mira immediately ran a medical scan, convinced she'd be reading a corpse's vitals. Her 3 eyes widened in horror as the results came back. Commander, his cellular integrity is at 112%. His muscle density has increased. His immune system is operating at levels I've never seen. He's not just alive, he's healthier than when he crashed. That's the vegetables, Marcus said proudly, gesturing to his garden. Super nutritious. You guys want some? I've got extras. That's when Fluffy emerged from the shelter. 6 legs. Crystalline spikes. Mandibles dripping with venom. A juvenile Raxthorn, which, juvenile or not, could kill everyone on the rescue team simultaneously. The team raised weapons. Marcus stepped in front of Fluffy protectively. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't shoot. This is Fluffy. She's friendly. Aren't you, girl? He scratched the creature under its mandibles. It made a sound like grinding metal mixed with a purr. Zalthor's brain was performing the mental equivalent of a blue screen error. That's a Raxthorn. They're classified as Class 8 aggressive predators. Yeah, but she's a sweetie once you get to know her. Fetch is still a work in progress though. Commander, Crix interrupted, his voice climbing several octaves. There's a Skyripper corpse over there with teeth marks. Did he eat one? Marcus shrugged. I mean, waste not, want not, right? Tastes like chicken. Angry, vengeful chicken, but chicken. There was a long, painful silence. Finally, Marcus spoke again, and his words broke what remained of the rescue team's sanity. So, not to sound ungrateful, but what took you guys so long? It's been pretty boring out here. I've reorganized my shelter 3 times. Do you have any books or maybe a deck of cards? Boring. He called Terminus 7 boring, not dangerous. Not horrifying. Not nightmare-inducing, boring. Zalthor decided then and there that he was retiring after this mission. The Galactic Council's debriefing chamber had hosted many dramatic moments in its 3,000-year history. Treaty signings, war declarations, first contact ceremonies. But nothing, and I mean nothing, had prepared them for Marcus Chen's survival report. The chamber was packed. Representatives from every major species had shown up because word had spread, a human survived Terminus 7. They needed to understand how, preferably before humans decided that Deathworlds were the new vacation hotspot. Marcus sat in the center, looking slightly uncomfortable with all the attention, sipping water from a canteen he'd brought back. Nobody had the heart to tell him it was probably still radioactive. So, Cadet Chen, began Council Arbiter Telmoth, a Visharian whose species was known for their calm demeanor, please walk us through your survival strategy. Oh, sure. Marcus leaned forward enthusiastically. Well, first thing, you gotta deal with the acid rain, right? Everyone thinks it's instant death, but honestly, you just need to understand the pH balance. It's only lethal if it hits bare skin at full concentration. I figured out that if you channel it through certain rock formations, it neutralizes to about a 6.5, which is basically harmless. 3 representatives fainted. Medical teams rushed forward. Marcus paused, concerned. Should I continue? Please, Telmoth said weakly. Okay, so shelter. The gravity fluctuations seem random, but there's actually a pattern if you track them over 48 hours. You just build in the stable zones. Easy. A Krillian scientist stood up, shaking. Cadet, our team spent decades trying to map those fluctuations. We lost 17 researchers. You're saying you figured it out in 2 days? Marcus shrugged. I mean, I had a lot of free time. Plus, it's just basic observation. Like watching tide patterns. He compared chaotic gravitational anomalies to tides. The Krillian sat down and put his head in his hands. And the fauna? Telmoth pressed on, though he looked like he regretted asking. Oh, they're not so bad once you understand their behavior. Raxthorns hunt by scent, so you just need to mask yours. I used local mud. Smells terrible, but works great. And skyrippers are basically just territorial. Don't mess with their nests, and they leave you alone. Well, mostly. Mostly? I mean, I did accidentally knock down a nest on day 6. But we worked it out. A Sultani xenobiologist stood up, trembling. Cadet Chen, Raxthorn neurotoxin is lethal to every known species. How did you avoid being stung? Oh, I got stung. Day 3, actually. Hurt like crazy for about an hour, then I felt fine. Little tingly, but fine. The medical team descended on him immediately, scanners going wild. The head physician, a Threnxian named Dr. Kolvar, looked at the readings and then at Marcus, then at the readings again. This is impossible. Your body metabolized the neurotoxin and apparently used it to enhance your neural pathways. You didn't survive the poison. You adapted to it. In 1 hour. Marcus blinked. Is that weird? Weird? Cadet, evolution takes millions of years. You just casually did it over lunch. Huh. Neat. Telmoth rubbed his temples, a gesture that translated across species as, I have the worst headache. Let me get this straight. You neutralized acid rain, mapped gravitational anomalies, befriended an apex predator, created hybrid supercrops, and evolved resistance to a universal neurotoxin. In 2 weeks. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds impressive, Marcus said modestly. But honestly, it was just common sense survival stuff. My scout leader back on Earth would be proud, though. He always said I'd use those camping badges eventually. He compared Terminus 7 survival to camping badges. That's when the council realized the horrifying truth: this wasn't exceptional for a human. This was just Marcus being Marcus. Which meant there were billions more like him. Dr. Kolvar pulled up Marcus's pre-mission medical records and compared them to his current readings. His voice came out as a horrified whisper, Council, I need to report something. Terminus 7 didn't harm him. It made him stronger. His bone density increased by 18%. His cardiovascular efficiency improved by 23%. His immune system is producing antibodies for diseases that don't even exist yet. So what you're saying, Telmoth said slowly, is that we sent a human to a death world, and the death world lost? Dr. Kolvar nodded grimly. The death world never stood a chance. After Marcus was escorted out, cheerfully waving goodbye and asking if anyone wanted his leftover super vegetables, the council pulled up Earth's planetary classification file. What they found made Terminus 7 look like a luxury resort. Let me get this straight, said Council Member HFY, a scholar known for his expertise in planetary habitability. Earth has weather systems that generate winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. Regularly. Tornadoes and hurricanes, confirmed Telmoth, reading the file with growing horror. Apparently humans named them and then built houses in their paths. Their oceans contain thousands of venomous species. Their land has ambush predators, pack hunters, and something called a hippopotamus which kills more humans annually than their actual apex predators. And they swim in these oceans? For fun. The file went on. Earthquakes. Volcanoes. Floods. Droughts. Microscopic organisms that could kill in hours. Plants that caused agonizing deaths if touched. Insects that carried deadly diseases. Temperature ranges from -40 to +50 Celsius. Their planet is actively trying to kill them, whispered a Valorian representative. It's been trying for millions of years. And they just adapted. They thrived. HFY pulled up a comparison chart. Terminus 7's acid rain had a pH of 2.3. Earth's stomach acid was 1.5. Terminus 7's atmospheric oxygen was 18%. Earth's was 21%, which apparently made their atmosphere mildly combustible. Terminus 7's gravity fluctuations were chaotic. Earth had something called plate tectonics that literally reshaped continents. They evolved in this, Telmoth said, his voice hollow. Humans are from a death world. That's when someone remembered Marcus's file and checked his birthplace. Council, Crick spoke up, his voice faint. Marcus listed his hometown as Vancouver, Canada. According to Earth's classification system, that's considered one of the most temperate, peaceful, safe regions on their entire planet. The silence was deafening. He's from the nice part, someone whispered. Telmoth closed the file. We've invited a species of apex survivors who think death worlds are camping trips to join the galactic community. What have we done? Zwextal asked the question everyone was thinking. A junior aide raised a tentacle hesitantly. Sir, there are 700 million more humans requesting exchange program applications. Telmoth started laughing. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone whose entire understanding of survival and danger had just been shattered by a cheerful human who domesticated his nightmares. The galaxy would never be the same. Within a month, the Galactic Council had completely overhauled their planetary classification system. They had to. Marcus had broken it so thoroughly that it was beyond repair. The old system ranged from Class 1, Paradise Worlds, to Class 10, absolutely uninhabitable. Simple, straightforward, and completely useless when humans entered the equation. The new classification included a special designation, human viable. Human viable meant lethal to literally everyone except those insane primates from Earth. It came with a symbol, a yellow warning sign featuring a human silhouette giving a thumbs up while standing in flames. The caption read, "Probability of death, yes. Human opinion, it's fine." Terminus 7 was immediately reclassified from code Black Omega, certain death, to HV7, human camping spot, moderate difficulty. The council added a note, warning, humans may attempt to garden here. Other death worlds got similar downgrades. The sulfur pits of Zalkoth. HV3, slightly spicy air. The frozen methane wastes of Glorenak. HV5, pack a jacket. The radiation-soaked hellscape of Terminus 9. HV4, free vitamin D. Educational institutions across the galaxy began receiving human exchange students, and the terror was palpable. Universities installed warning systems. Attention, human in chemistry lab. Evacuate if you value your sanity. Because here's the thing about humanity's new reputation, they weren't feared for being warriors or conquerors. They were feared for being absolutely, incomprehensibly, cheerfully unkillable. They looked at the galaxy's nightmares and said, "Neat, can I keep one as a pet?" And the galaxy, wisely, learned to just smile, nod, and slowly back away. The age of humanity had begun, and the universe was very, very nervous. 6 months later, the Council posted a retrieval mission to Oblivion's Edge, a planet so hostile it made Terminus 7 look like a spa retreat. The atmosphere was pure methane, the surface temperature fluctuated between boiling and freezing hourly, and the indigenous life forms were described as cosmically malevolent. Expected survival time, 0 hours. Marcus's application was on Telmoth's desk before the posting went public. Absolutely not, Telmoth said without looking up. Come on, it'll be fun. I've been practicing my methane breathing. That's not a thing. It is now. The Council approved it anyway. What else could they do? Humanity had accidentally become the galaxy's pest control, the species you called when a planet was too dangerous for robots and too deadly for sense. As Marcus boarded his ship, Fluffy in tow, yes, he'd gotten permission to keep her. He waved at the assembled council members who'd come to see him off. Their expressions ranged from resignation to existential dread. See you in a few weeks. Marcus called out cheerfully. I'll bring back samples. Please don't, everyone whispered in unison, but he was already gone, off to prove once again that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or strength. It was their baffling, terrifying, absolutely unshakable ability to look at the impossible and say, "Hold my beer." The galaxy groaned collectively. This was just the beginning.